How we doing, friends and enemies? It is week 13, Q and Assault, otherwise known as Q&A. Every single week, I jump on here, Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern time. It is Thanksgiving weekend, so don't expect a ton of yapping in this one because most people probably spend the time with their family. Thus, I still show up and show out for y'all, because I always will. All right? So the way we're going to get back into things is going through the most asked about players this week, and we have some heavy hitters. Most of the time, the questions for people and their starting lineups have a lot deeper of names going on, and I would suspect that's because we have a full week of teams, so no bye week. So your selection in terms of who you're going to flex, in terms of who you're throwing into your wide receiver 3, running back 2 spots, obviously a lot better. We have a lot of players, a lot of good players that are now back at full strength that have missed a lot of time throughout the year as well. So the most asked about players, as you can see on the bottom here, Drake London, T. Higgins, Bucky Irving, Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson Jr., DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman. I will jump into each of those quickly for y'all. As you can see, I have them ranked accordingly in that order right there, all right? And again, I know that a lot of these players are very, very good, and most of them are going to get into your lineup regardless, but these were the questions that y'all asked. What's up, Jacob? We done. So yeah, we're in week 13, and I think because we're getting into late November, early December, weather's going to start playing a little bit more of a factor in a lot of these games. All right, so 3 notable games, 3 games in which are probably the only ones that weather might actually affect here are Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. The color-coded scheme for these go green, yellow, orange, red. Typically, we don't really care about the impact of the weather unless it hits the orange-red category here. So we got Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Actual temperature a hair below freezing, so around 30. Feels like temps closer to 20 degrees due to a 5 to 10 mile per hour wind. So the winds are not strong. It's just a cold game, all right? Don't really think it's going to affect anything in the passing game. Players play cold. They're in the fucking NFL out here. A lot of these players have played in the cold. They live in places, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, where it gets cold in the winter, so they are used to it. And these are 2 tough teams. These are teams where, George Pickens is coming out in a goddamn tank top. He don't give a fuck about the cold weather. So I'm not worried about the passing game or the running game in that one whatsoever. We got Seattle at New York. It's cold out here in New York right now. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am double, triple buttoned up right now. Temp in the mid-30s plus a 10 to 15 mile per hour sustained wind and stronger gusts. So again, not really anything to be overly concerned about. Nothing wet. We got no snow. We got no rain. Nothing like that. It's just a little bit cold with a little bit of wind. For San Francisco and Buffalo, the biggest problem here is the snow in the days and hours leading up to the game, which could end up near 2 feet of snow. The forecast for the actual game itself isn't nearly as ugly, maybe a half inch of total snow due to scattered snow showers. Temps in the 20s and wind sustained around 10 miles per hour with gusts over 20. I'm conflicted here on the actual impacts and half raised the impact level to orange because visually it would look like a high-impact weather game. I think the actual impact of scoring is probably more in the yellow range. Well, we're going to get a lot of snow. We're going to get a lot of volunteers up in Buffalo shoveling the snow. So I'm not actually concerned about the field conditions or the game conditions, to be quite frank white with you. All right. What we're definitely more concerned about is whether or not Brock Purdy is playing. That's really going to dictate the course of this game. All right. And kind of funny, originally Underdog had a free square, because they give you out free squares every single week if you are a betting man. If you're a gambling man, they give you absolutely free squares, all right? So just free money coming into your bank account. They had Brock Purdy up there, but I went ahead and made sure that they swapped that to Jameis Winston in case he don't play, all right? So Jameis Winston plays on Monday night, meaning you got 2 full days, 48 hours to get this bet in right now. If you go to Underdog Fantasy, if you download the app and you use our code BDGE, when you do so, they're going to hit you with a deposit bonus for whatever amount you throw down, I think up to like $1,000, and they're going to get you that free pick, all right? All throughout the week, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. They do that throughout every single game, all right? So free picks galore for you little ladies and hoes out there. Let's jump into the actual rankings here, all right? So we'll start off with Drake London on the top of it. As you can see, we got Vegas Fantasy projected points for half PPR, as well as the ranking against the defensive opponent that they are going, that they're facing. Drake London versus Chargers. I mean, Drake London at this point has been a top 10 fantasy wide receiver, if not better, whenever he is playing. You could say the same thing with T. Higgins. I like Drake London's matchup a little bit more. I like the game environment here for Atlanta at home in the Dome against the Chargers that are, scoring pretty easily, and I think with the lack of pass rush on Atlanta, Herbert's going to be able to move the ball pretty easily. The Chargers defense has played well above their weight class, I think, and I think when they play really good offenses, that will, I don't want to say expose them because they're a good team, but I'm not too nervous about them when I see my players going up against the Chargers, especially the passing side of things. We just saw Lamar Jackson kind of go a little bit nutty against them. I also think coming off of the bye, we're going to see a really, really strong Atlanta bounce-back passing game here. So Drake would be my one if you have all of these dudes available to you at the flex. You got T. Higgins versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's obviously just a very good defense all around. They've allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position, but it's T. Higgins. The dude's been raw as fuck whenever he is on the field. He's been as good as really any wide receiver, probably outside of his teammate Jamar Chase, but this one's, again, just not one we're going to overthink. A 47-point total here. Vegas has him projected at nearly 13.5 PPR fantasy points. When the dude is playing, he's a guaranteed 5 to 7 receptions, and he's scoring more often than he is not scoring, all right? So you obviously want T. Higgins in your lineup. I got no problem with either of those dudes pretty much getting into your lineup above any non-elite fantasy player. Next on the list, we got Bucky Irving up here at Carolina. And I feel like for some reason, people are still like kind of not down on Bucky Irving, but we're just starting to see a bunch of like, he's a must start. I kind of feel like Bucky's been a must start player for like the last month and a half of the season. I don't know why people are just catching up now. They're playing at Carolina. Obviously, every running back just goes nutty against Carolina. This backfield just eats no matter who they're playing against. The matchup almost doesn't matter for this backfield. Tristan Wirfs was limited all week at practice, but he is doubtful, so it doesn't look like he's going to be suiting up until week 14, unfortunately. But Bucky's got a high projection per Vegas, and he literally gets the single best matchup on the slate against Carolina. Every running back goes crazy, all right? So Bucky, to me, is about as much of a must-start as anyone on this list, and we saw him last game get more involved in the passing game. He was getting design passes, design screens from the very jump, and if he starts to eat more into Rachaad White's pass-catching workload, it's going to be a problem. Bucky, like everyone is overthinking this backfield triple duo, whatever you want to fucking call it, of Rachaad White, Sean Tucker. Bucky just is the best one on the ground, is slowly becoming just as good as Rachaad White in the passing game. He gets it done on the goal line. He gets it done through the air, through the ground. Like, you're insane if you're overthinking Bucky at this point. And I have him over Tony Pollard, who is my number 4 ranked player on this list. I actually think Pollard is probably closer to Brian Robinson than he is to Bucky, to be honest with you. I had more trouble deciding between them two than I did between Bucky and those other 2 running backs. But Pollard came up ahead. They're obviously playing against each other, so the game total 44.5 for both B-Rob and Tony Pollard. Now, 2 ships kind of passing in the night here. For Pollard, you have Tajay Spears looking like he's going to clear concussion protocol. You get him back. On the flip side, B-Rob has Austin Eckler, who's going to miss this game with a concussion. So there's upward trajectory for B-Rob. There's downward trajectory for Tony Pollard. I just trust Pollard's workload, and I trust his involvement in this offense, and I like the matchup a lot more, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. When it comes to Tennessee's defense, their run defense has been very good. Their pass defense is susceptible to bigger plays. Their pass defense is susceptible to just good passing opponents, all right? And I think Washington at least is an average passing team, if not above average, especially when Jaden Daniels is, when he's hitting, when he's clapping, all right? So Tony Pollard, Vegas likes him more. I like him more. I like the matchup more. I like his upside a little bit more. That being said, though, like, I don't want to diminish Brian Robinson. I think he's good to go. He was a dude that last week I told people not to overthink. I think people try to get too cute with injuries. If a player is playing, more often than not, like, yes, we've seen people act as decoys, but it usually doesn't happen. We remember those ones because they're the most fucking annoying examples of it. But a lot of times when a player is good to go and they say he's good to go, 85% of the time the player gets 90% of his workload, all right? Unless they missed multiple weeks in a row, then when they're back, like, we have a little bit of concern because they are at less than full strength. But if a guy tweaks his ankle like B-Rob did, they say he's good to go, he's usually good to go. And now he's 2 weeks off of that. Without Eckler, B-Rob could see a nice uptick in passing game work there because the other 2 behind him, McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, those dudes are not pass-catching backs, all right? So I don't think they really eat into it. So I could see B-Rob catching 3-4 passes in this game because he is a good pass-catching back. I just worry about the efficiency that Washington is going to have on the ground against Tennessee, against Jeffrey Simmons, against Tavondre Sweat. That is just a fucking disgusting D-line they got there in the middle. So I'm going to go Pollard over B-Rob slightly. And now we get down to DK and Michael Pittman. DK was probably the most asked about player in this slate. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of red. There's a lot of ugliness on the bottom there. Seattle's playing at New York. Like I said, the weather's not an overly concerning thing, but it is worse than, players that are playing in the dome, players that are playing in high total games, players that are not playing in 30-degree weather. So you can look at that as a tiebreaker. Again, they're in New York, so it's like 30-degree temperature, some gusts of wind. They have the lowest game total slate on all of these players in terms of the guys that I've ranked. 41.5 point total, which is low for 2024, man. These totals been up there. Vegas has him projected, tied with Michael Pittman at 10.3. And the Jets, again, everyone makes fun of the Jets' defense, but their passing defense is still pretty good. They don't allow teams to really hit big on them. They've allowed the third fewest fantasy points per game, whereas Michael Pittman, who I do have ranked below him, 25th in terms of fantasy points per game allowed to the wide receiver position. That is New England. So Pittman playing at New England, 42.5 point total. I just trust DK a lot more as a player than I do Michael Pittman at this point. He's been dealing on and off with the back injury. Now, similar to like the Pollard-Brian Robinson dichotomy, Pittman is now playing without Josh Downs, which is an uptick to everybody in that passing offense, obviously. Alec Pierce was back to a full practice on Friday, so Pierce will be playing. Ashton Doolin out, doesn't really matter. I think they're getting some help back at on the offensive line for Anthony Richardson, which will be huge. That being said, though, DK is always just one play away from a massive, massive game. Lockett's been kind of disregarded in this offense overall. I think this game, low-key, has, I don't want to say shootout potential, but I think it has a really good chance to go over its total of 41.5 here. Seattle versus New York. I could see Rodgers coming out being pissed off. Geno, at the end of the day, he's averaging the single most passing yards per game of any quarterback in the NFL. So, the touchdowns necessarily haven't been there. He's throwing a lot of interceptions in places that he shouldn't be throwing them in, but he's getting the yardage there, and that's really all you can ask for as it relates to DK, the opportunity, the yardage, etc. I don't hate Pittman. I will say that. He's not a guy that I'm going out of my way to sit this week, but just the inconsistency that he's shown throughout the year. And I do like Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to have a good game, but in case he ends up completing another 10 or 11 passes, that's going to be brutal for this passing offense. That's going to be, that could be an Adonai Mitchell game where he catches 4 or 5 passes. I really like him this week. You have Alec Pierce maybe catches 3 of those passes. So, maybe Pittman's left with 3 or 4. The floor is really, really low for Pittman, in my opinion. So, that's why I have him ranked at the bottom here. Now, I do actually, we'll jump into some questions here. Jacob, what's good, my friend? I need one between C-Mac, Chase Brown, and Cortland Sutton. Those are some good fucking options. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you to start Chase Brown. I don't know that if you gave me a list of 5 players, the 5 best players in fantasy, I would take all of them over Chase Brown. Chase Brown has been as good as basically any fantasy player over the last month of the season. His opportunity share has been that of, C-Mac during his legendary seasons. It's Chase Brown for me. Full PPR, we got James Conner, Devontae Adams at the flex. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with James Conner there. I know he's coming off of a bad game, but Devontae Adams is kind of routinely coming off of bad games. I know the matchup's tough, but I'd rather not attach myself to the Jets offense if I have the choice with good options not to. TNS, hope you had a good turkey day. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I got to hang with all my, my fat uncles who would just sit on the couch and are like, this guy sucks and this guy sucks. I had one uncle, if you follow me on Twitter, I posted about this, but he's sitting there and he's like, Micah Parsons sucks. Dak Prescott sucks. Myles Garrett sucks. Everybody sucks. He just sits there. I'm like, you're just fat and 55 and sitting on a couch. What are you talking about? Need 1 quarterback and 2 flexes. Half PPR. We got Kyler or Herbert. Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there in your tracks. We are going to go with Herbert. Love the matchup against Atlanta. They get 0 pressure. Then we have Amari Cooper, Rashad White, Ladd, Gus, Cade Otton. Otton scares me. First game back with Mike Evans, his opportunity really sank into the fucking ground there. Gus Edwards in half PPR, not someone I'm super excited about. You need 2 flexes. I'm going to stack Ladd with Herbert here, and I'm going to take Rashad White as well. An incredible matchup, and dude's been super involved as well. So I like Rashad, Ladd, and Herbert there. Pick 2 full PPR. We got MHJ, DK Metcalf, and Amari Cooper. Ugh. That's kind of ugly. Overall, I'd probably roll with Marvin Harrison Jr. and DK Metcalf. The weather scares me a little bit in Buffalo. If Brock Purdy does not play, I know he's trending towards playing. So, again, it's one of those things I don't want to overthink. This isn't like a wide receiver where you can have him in injured and he could be a decoy. You don't put your quarterback in if he's going to play as a fucking decoy, right? You just don't play him. So if he does play, I think we're going to get at least like 80% Brock Purdy. The re-injury rate might be a little bit higher. Like, he could get injured during this game and make it worse. But I will assume that if he's active, he's playing, and he'll get his 25 to 30 pass attempts, which is good for Cooper. Because on the flip side, if Purdy doesn't play, like, they're just going to dominate game script. But I still don't like the weather out there, and I think because you have these other options, I would go elsewhere. MHA, even in a tough matchup, I could see against the Vikings blitzing a lot, which would lead to Kyler Murray having to roll out a lot. And that's where I think a lot of his big plays to MHA and McBride have come this year. So I'm going to go MHA and DK there. Bucks or Indy defensive? Okay, first defensive question. Let me pull the spreads up. Y'all know I got a little bit of a formula for this one. We have Tampa Bay. They're playing what? Carolina. Yeah, so they're going to be pretty heavily favored, I believe. They are 6-point favorites, 46.5 point 46.5 point total. You got the Colts 2.5 point favorites in New England. I'm gonna go Tampa there. I'm gonna go Tampa. Bigger spread, bigger scores. I like it. Full PPR. We got Ridley or MHJ and Bo Nix or K1. Ooh, okay. This is where it gets interesting. Finally, Bo Nix kind of has a tough matchup. Their secondary's been a little bit trash. They're a better run defense. So I'm actually gonna ride the hot hand with Bo Nix at home. Like his matchup more than K1. And then we've got full PPR, Calvin Ridley or Marvin Harrison Jr. Calvin Ridley and the Titans play against Washington as 6-point dogs. Will Levis is going to have to throw the ball, and every target is going to Calvin Ridley or Nick Westbrook-Ikini. So I'm going to roll with the hot hand there and ride Ridley. Tindy, baby. We got full PPR, Tony P or Jawan Jennings if Purdy plays. Yeah, I still, man, that's tough because Jawan felt like a must play, a week ago, and then Purdy gets hurt, and now the conditions in this game are kind of gross. I will say, like, maybe it leads to more targets to Jawan Jennings because in a snow game, he's sure-handed. He's the guy that doesn't necessarily separate, but he's really good at catching, in tight spaces and being a possession receiver type of dude. That being said, though, I think I just feel better about Pollard. I feel better about his floor. I feel better about the overall, game situation here. A lot of bad vibes out there in San Fran, and this game does not feel like the one that gets fixed for it. TNS, full PPR. I need one quarterback. I have Burrow. I have the Jamar stack or Stafford, and one. It's a question. Okay, so the question is Burrow or Stafford. Okay, so you got Cincy, again, 47-point total, 3-point favorites at home against Pittsburgh. Obviously a very tough matchup. And then you've got Stafford, 2.5-point favorites on the road in New Orleans, almost a 50-point total. I'm going to be honest with you, man. It's so hard to sit Burrow. Stafford's floor feels so good, but honestly, Burrow's floor has been great as well. And I think because you have the stack, I really like the upside there. Game environment I feel like he's a guaranteed 250-2 every time he steps out there. But Burrow with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the field together, as you can see, I'm struggling with this one. I don't have a great read on which one I would go with. I think because I have Chase, I'd probably lean Burrow, but my heart is kind of telling me to go Stafford as well. So sorry I don't have a clear answer for you there. You need one flex in full PPR. We've got Najee Harris. So Pittsburgh against Cincinnati. Cincy will be without, I believe, Sheldon Rankins. I want to say B.J. Hill is back. So their D-tackle, they're kind of 50-50 on that. Let me see. Yeah, Sheldon Rankins out. B.J. Hill, full practice, so he will be playing. You got Gus Edwards against Atlanta. Touchdown dependent. Quentin Johnson and Adam Thielen. Ooh, okay. I don't really love Najee just because Jalen Warren's been so involved recently. Gus Edwards, I do like the matchup, but full PPR, he feels like a fucking cone. And even in like a good day, if he goes for 50 yards and a touchdown, that's 11 points. I almost feel like you're probably getting that out of the wide receivers. I think I'd actually roll Thielen here, man. I like his involvement last week, first week back. Getting good targets. Jalen Coker and Jatavian Sanders are both going to be out for this game. It's a great matchup against Tampa Bay's defense that lets up a ton of points to wide receivers. So I'm actually going to go Thielen here. Crazy as that fucking sounds. Mo, we got start one quarterback, full PPR. We got Stafford, A-Rich, Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. Thought I was cute and bench Tua. I'm a cone. I mean, listen, in theory, I feel like you were right. Like the game script just happened to allow him to clear some points at the end there. He didn't really play a great game, so I feel like you read it well. Based on these ones, I'm not going to go Russ. They just don't pass the ball enough. Trevor Lawrence, he's kind of a pass for me as well. A-Rich and Stafford's a close one for me. A-Rich does give upside, but I think Stafford's floor is just so secure in this game against the Saints. Their defense is terrible, right? Still no Lattimore, no Paulson Adebo. Really banged up in the secondary, and their passing defense has just been terrible. Their pass rush is not good. And when Stafford has time to work with Kupp and Puka, his floor is just so fucking high. So I'm gonna go Stafford there, Mo. I have a bet open right now. So it's a four leg. Actually, speaking of Tua, yeah, I have a couple bets open right now. So if y'all want to ride with me on these, let me throw it up on the screen. So this is the Pickett app. If you guys are unfamiliar with it, or the Pickett websites, they have a phenomenal app as well. Free to download, free to join, or whatever. I hit a 3-pick entry here. So I took Tua over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I got lucky here. This was kind of like my the all fade narrative slip. I kind of do this once a week where it's like all of the super public narratives that everybody who can't think for themselves just like says it over and over and over again. Like Tua can't play well. He can't throw in the cold weather. I usually fade those narratives, and the slips end up doing pretty well here. So I took Tua over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I got Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 passing touchdowns because everyone's like, oh, the Jets team is just done. Aaron Rodgers is the worst quarterback of all time. He's going to have a good game. And then Jalen Hurts, I took under 223.5 passing yards. No real reason there. He's not throwing the ball a lot. I don't expect Devontae Smith is questionable for this game. He might miss another one. I know Baltimore secondary is bad, but I just imagine they're going to lean on Saquon so heavily. And I don't think he's hit this number in like 5 games now at this point. He literally like throws the ball 18 times a game. But this is the one I'm more stoked about right here. We have a four-legger here on Pickett. And again, if you guys download the Pickett app, you can it's in the link down below. It'll automatically, I believe it'll actually automatically follow Guts account. But if you look at his like followers or following, you'll be able to find my profile. It's just at Nick Ercolano on there. You could follow any picks that I make throughout. So if you want to ride with me, you can get that free square I showed you in the beginning of the video, plus under 92.5 Saquon Barkley rushing yards. So he hit the first 3 out of 4 legs, threw 100 down on this square. I'm going to win 800 if we hit this, all right? So this is big. We need Saquon under 92.5. Baltimore's run defense is very good. It looks like they're getting both Roquan Smith and Michael Pierce back on defense, which is huge for the cause. I'm going to check what Saquon's line is at right now, actually. Saquon? What the hell? Oh, love that. It's all the way down at 87.5. So I got it at 92.5. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I kind of wish they just let you cash out, take my like $400 and call it a goddamn day. But you know, we're gonna power on. And what's cool about Pickett, if you're a pro member, which is like their monthly membership, they give you these cool like stats on top of the betting, like closing line percentage, you know, where you took it versus where it closed, if you got any extra value on those bets, different scenarios that they lay out in terms of futures that you have open right now. Yeah, I'm sharp as fuck. I took Detroit in the preseason at 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. How you doing? These are all pro features. So if you do download the Pickett app, or if you use the Pickett website, you need the pro account to use the actual desktop website there. And I believe if you go through our promo code or if you go through our link, it'll give you a discount when you sign up for the pro monthly membership. Anywhere you sign up, just of course you got to throw our little name into those. But yeah, you can follow me on here. It's like a social media app for betting, which is cool. And you can sync all your sports books, DraftKings and FanDuel and Underdog and PrizePicks, wherever you play, they got you covered on here. And again, you can follow everyone in the office, which I think is one of the coolest parts of this, and look at the calendar and see how bad we are, see how good we are. Usually not great. I had a 7-leg parlay. Oh, yeah, not great. Let's just take that one to the crib. Let's get back to some questions. I saw some more come in here. Tindy, team question. I got Kyler, Jordan Love, Justin Jefferson, Puka, Nico. Those are disgusting receivers. Juan Jennings, Pop Doug, Tony P, H-Han, Tyrone Tracy, and number 1 waiver wire. Do you think Pop D is a droppable guy? Yeah, absolutely. Justin Jefferson, Puka, Nico, Mike Evans, Juwan Jennings. Yeah, he would be easily the number 6 in that ranking. Unless you're starting like 4 wide receivers and 2 flexes. And even there, like he is the worst player that you ranked in this entire list here. So yeah, definitely droppable for me. Full PPR, Terry McLaurin or Tony Pollard. I'm going to take Terry here. I think Washington will have a better day, a better offensive day. I think with Austin Eckler out, targets are going to go elsewhere, but they're going to have a little bit of a more difficult time running the ball. And Tennessee's run defense is a lot better than its pass defense. So I would rather have pieces of that passing game. So I'm going to go Terry here. I know the targets necessarily haven't been there, but he's been producing one way or another. So don't fade Terry. One more. Standard scoring. I need 1 flex. We got Trey McBride, Adam Thielen, Tank Dell, Tony P. Okay, for standard scoring, this is where you start to look at, okay, who is the most likely player to score a touchdown? Unfortunately for Trey McBride, that motherfucker couldn't buy a touchdown if he had a goddamn trust fund. So Trey, love him, but no. Thielen, probably unlikely. I like his chances of going like 6 for 70, but in standard scoring, that ain't going to get it done. Tony P, I mean, realistically, has the best chance of scoring here. He has the highest Vegas projection for fantasy points, so I won't overthink that one. Tank Dell, it's always cool to be like, oh, maybe he catches a long touchdown pass, and it could definitely happen against Jacksonville. Like, we could look back on this, and he goes 6 for 70 and a touchdown, but I don't think you could bet on that. So Tony P for me. Tony P for me. How you down? Appreciate you, boss. Have a good weekend. Missing that deal or no deal video though. Yeah, we actually were in here Tuesday or Wednesday to film it as a pre-recorded video. And Tony left for California. He had to leave the office at 1:30 to go back home. J-Mo came in despite being sick. He came in just for deal or no deal, but we were doing it earlier to make sure that we could get it done before Tony had to leave the office. I filmed both of my running back and wide receiver rankings videos Wednesday morning. So Tony needed to edit those and upload those within that same day. And those are like 30-minute videos, so it takes a minute. But for some reason, Sexy, Corrupt Bankerstein, was not up or was not like available to us when we were originally trying to play. So by the time he hit us back, I think we were trying to film at like 11 a.m. or 11:30. By the time he hit us back, it was like 12:30. Tony was in the middle of editing, and we didn't have enough time before he left the office. So we tried our hardest, I swear. We tried to get the deal or no deal going. But yeah, listen, we needed a bye week. Everybody needs a bye week. We're getting into the mud here. Week 13. It's been long. It's been strenuous. It's been thick. Pause. Yeah. All right, we'll wrap up here. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. All right, listen, also, these Smoochy sweatshirts, as well as a couple other branded hoodies, are winter drop. They might be going live tomorrow. BDGE.shop, either live tomorrow or Monday. So over the next 48 hours, these will be live on the shop, BDGE.shop. So look out for those. We'll be posting it all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Make sure you're following us all over the place. These things are beautiful, super high quality, super proud of how these came out. going to be phenomenal. So I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys go cop. And again, Underdog Fantasy, download it, deposit with code BDGE. You'll get that deposit bonus, and you will get that free square. And go download the Pickett app, please. Use code BDG on that as well. Love y'all. Good luck in week 13. Let's get to the fucking Yoffs. Hang.